Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a central puzzle of the European Union, how it produces an absolutely incredible amount of legislation.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The difference is pretty wild. The EU, this coalition of 27 really diverse countries, passed more than double the number of laws as the US Congress in the same 5-year stretch. If you do the math, that's about 7 new European laws hitting the books every single day.
You know, on paper, you'd think this system would be totally paralyzed by its own complexity. You've got 705 members of parliament from 200 different parties, plus 27 sovereign governments that all need to agree on things. And yet, it's a legislative powerhouse. So how on earth is this possible? Okay, let's get into it.
Well, the answer isn't really in the process itself, but in what motivates the people inside the system. It turns out, for pretty much everyone involved, their career, their influence, it all depends on one thing: getting more laws passed.
First up, you've got the European Commission. They're the ones who propose laws. Now, unlike a national government that can, just spend money to make policy, the EU's budget is actually tiny. So for them, the only real way to make an impact and expand their power is to legislate. There's basically zero incentive to ever say, you know what, no EU action is needed here.
Then you've got the Parliament. The real action there isn't actually on the main floor. It's in these smaller, specialized committees. So members of the European Parliament, or MEPs, who are super passionate about something, like climate change or labor rights, they join that specific committee for one reason: to push their agenda and pass tough new rules.
And finally, there's the Council, which represents the 27 member states. Each country gets to hold the presidency for just 6 months. And that creates this immense pressure to show you've been successful. And how do you do that? You close deals and you pass laws, which often means you're willing to compromise just to get something, anything done before your time is up.
So, you take all these powerful incentives, this universal drive to legislate, and what you get is the creation of an unofficial but super efficient system that works almost entirely behind the scenes. It's called the Trialog system, and it is the real engine room of EU lawmaking.
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The official process you read about in textbooks is designed to be slow, public, and deliberate, but where the real work gets done is in this informal, private Trialog system, which is built for one thing and one thing only: speed.
And here's the really wild part. These Trialogs, they aren't even mentioned in the EU's founding treaties. At all. Yet they have somehow become the standard way laws get made. Representatives from the 3 big institutions meet behind closed doors, they hammer out a final deal, and they completely sidestep all of those slow, formal public debates. And these negotiations, they often turn into these marathon sessions that are basically designed to force a deal through sheer exhaustion. I mean, the meeting for the big AI Act, for example, lasted nearly 38 hours straight. And let's be honest, when you're making decisions at 4 in the morning, it's pretty much inevitable that important details get missed and mistakes get made.
And during these late-night sessions, you have to remember, the Commission isn't just a neutral referee. It has a huge advantage. It holds the pen. That means it controls the draft text that everyone is working from, and that gives it immense power to subtly shape the final law and steer it towards its own preferences.
So, okay, how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's look at a pretty powerful example of how a decision made by just a tiny group of people can very quickly become the law for the entire continent.
Let's take the decision to effectively ban new gas-powered cars across Europe. It all started right here. In May 2022, a single parliamentary committee passed the rule by a razor-thin margin of just 6 votes. Then, less than 4 weeks later, with almost no time for a wider debate, the full parliament just rubber-stamped it. And just like that, a tiny committee vote became the EU's official position. And look, this wasn't a fluke. A very similar thing happened with the minimum wage directive. A committee pushed it through so fast that it actually contained parts that the EU's own Court of Justice later had to rule were illegal. So this system consistently lets small, really motivated groups drive massive policy changes with very little oversight.
So, as you can probably guess, all this incredible speed and volume, it comes with a pretty big downside. When the main goal is just to produce more laws, the quality of those laws can really suffer.
169. What on earth is that number? Well, that's how many times that different laws were found to clash with each other. And get this, that was from a review of just 13 pieces of legislation. In a lot of those cases, the rules were just flat-out contradictory, creating this tangled, unworkable mess for businesses and people to deal with. And it all points to this bigger problem, right?
The system just doesn't have any feedback loops. Those amendments that get tacked on in the middle of the night, they aren't checked for their real-world economic impact. There are almost no ways to go back and check if a law actually worked. Instead, the whole Brussels machine just moves on to the next thing.
And this really brings us right back to the puzzle we started with. The reason the EU is so productive is because real, messy public debate has basically been replaced by backroom deal-making. Consensus is built in private, so by the time a law gets to the floor for a public vote, it's already a done deal. Everyone's incentive is to claim a win and just say yes.
It's a system that is, without a doubt, incredibly effective at what it does, producing laws. But it leaves us with this final, and I think really critical question about the trade-offs we're making here. What is the true cost of prioritizing speed over democratic oversight, deliberation, and ultimately the quality of the rules that govern 450 million people?